The evening started like any other first date. His name was Alex, and we had met through an online dating app. He seemed charming and charismatic in our chats, and his profile pictures showed a handsome young man with a disarming smile. As we agreed to meet at a trendy downtown restaurant, I felt a mixture of excitement and nerves. When I walked into the dimly lit restaurant, I spotted him sitting at a corner table, a half-empty glass of wine in front of him. He smiled as I approached, his eyes lighting up with anticipation. We exchanged pleasantries, and for a while the conversation flowed smoothly. We talked about our jobs, hobbies, and favorite movies. I learned that Alex had a passion for hiking and shared my love for classic horror films. We seemed to have a lot in common, and I began to relax, thinking that this might be the start of something special. But as the night wore on, I started to notice something odd about Alex. He had a peculiar way of staring at me, as if he were studying my every move. His smile became more forced, and his laughter grew hollow. It was as if a veil of darkness had descended over him, and an inexplicable unease settled in the pit of my stomach. I tried to ignore my growing discomfort and pressed on with the conversation. We talked about our families, and that's when things took a chilling turn. Alex's face hardened, and he spoke in a cold, detached tone. "My family," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "is a complicated story. They're not in the picture anymore. Sometimes people let you down, and sometimes it's better to cut them out of your life." I prodded gently for more information, hoping to understand his past better, but he became evasive, avoiding my questions with vague, unsettling answers. It was clear that there were skeletons in his family's closet, and he had no intention of revealing them. As we continued to talk, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. Alex's gaze never wavered from me, and I felt as if I were under a microscope. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. When I excused myself to use the restroom, I took a moment to collect my thoughts. Something about Alex's behavior felt off, and a creeping sense of unease gnawed at my nerves. I considered texting a friend to let them know where I was, just in case. As I returned to the table, Alex suggested we take a stroll in a nearby park to prolong our evening. I hesitated for a moment, but eventually agreed, trying to dismiss my growing apprehension as mere paranoia. Maybe I was overthinking things, I told myself. We walked through the quiet park, the moon casting eerie shadows on the winding paths. The silence between us was deafening, and I desperately tried to think of a way to steer the conversation away from its dark trajectory. But then, out of nowhere, Alex stopped and turned to face me. His expression had transformed into something sinister, a twisted smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Can I trust you?" he asked softly. "You won't disappoint me, will you?" "Not like my family did." "Well, I guess if you did try to leave me, I'd have to cut you out of my life as well." Alex then pulled out a hunting knife from his boot and started slowly walking toward me, mumbling something about how everyone he loves disappoints him. Just then, Alex lunged at me, his hands outstretched, fingers like claws. Instinct took over, and I stumbled backward, narrowly avoiding his grasp. I screamed for help, but the park was eerily empty. With a surge of adrenaline, I turned and sprinted in the opposite direction, my heart racing like a freight train. I could hear Alex's heavy footsteps behind me, his menacing laughter echoing through the park. I didn't dare look back, fearing what I might see. I ran as fast as my trembling legs would carry me, desperately searching for a way out. My breath came in ragged gasps, and my vision blurred with tears of terror. I knew I couldn't outrun him for long. Just when I thought I couldn't go on, I spotted a figure up ahead. It was a park ranger, making his rounds. I screamed for help once more, and this time, he heard me. He rushed toward us, a look of confusion and concern on his face. Alex, realizing he was outnumbered, turned and fled into the darkness. The park ranger gave chase, but Alex managed to disappear into the night. He was gone, leaving me shaken and traumatized in his wake. The park ranger called the police, and they arrived shortly after. I gave them a description of Alex and recounted the harrowing encounter. They promised to do everything they could to track him down, but I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. Who was this man, and what had possessed him to try to harm me? I returned home that night, my nerves frayed and my mind in turmoil. I couldn't sleep, haunted by the memory of Alex's chilling transformation and his attempt to harm me. In the days that followed, The police told me without more evidence. There was nothing they could do. All the information Alex had given me was a lie. Even his name was likely made up. Months went by, and I tried my best to get my life back to normal. I lived in constant fear, always looking over my shoulder, never feeling safe. My encounter with Alex had left me scarred, a reminder that danger could lurk in the most unexpected places.